Hello and howdy, folks, and welcome to the Quick Esports Twitch, where we have two top teams facing against each other in the Masters Division. Two teams that are in a bit of a different predicament in the standings, where Incendia, they're in the position where they need to have as little losses as possible and stay in that top 8 so they can play in the playoffs. Where Quick, they're looking pretty good. They're joint second right now, but of course, no one wants to be second place, everyone wants to be first. My name is Gio, I'll be casting for you today alongside my wonderful co-caster, Megalas.
Yes, hi, hello. It's very fun to be here, and like you said, it's going to be an interesting matchup between these teams. I'm no mathematician, but a win here should push Quick Esports into that number one spot, at least for now. So, could be fun to, earn that number one seed at least for the time being. And then, like you were saying, Incendia, they kind of need this win. Adding an extra loss to the column is not going to be good for them, but we're already getting into it here on Nepal. I believe we had a Venture and a Lucio band come through. So we're seeing Malga coming out on the side of Quick Esports, but Incendia is going to stick with a Zarya composition. This is going to be all in on pocketing Cloud on this Genji pick, and we'll have to see how much value it gets.
And Cloud is a very strong player, as you can already see, takes out Snowdrop. And Cloud has been a very key player on Incendia throughout. If they're on Pharah, if they're on Genji, they're always finding those key picks.
Yeah, and sometimes that key pick is the only one you need. As you see, the rest of Quick Esports is just going to end up running for the hills, getting a nice little reset going. But yeah, I mean, Incendia's composition here is going to be interesting to play against because for Quick Esports, it's going to be about forcing out these bubbles from Hybrid on this Zarya before they really get a full engage like they want to. And Cloud, knowing that he's got bubbles and Ana and anything else to boot, just means that he's just going to be a very, very hyper aggressive on this Genji.
And you can already see that Cloud dash around, jumping around, just looking for the backline squishies to try and take someone out. If they can find Snowdrop again, it'd be great. Natsuki does go low, gets healed up though, as Willis is looking, of course, for those slams. As Zydra's in the back, similar to Cloud, looking for those squishies, trying to take someone out. With Cloud going down, Hybrid, oh, high charge, has just beamed down the support line of Incendia. That means no more sustain for Quick. They're going to have to back up and go back to the drawing board.
Yeah, and I mean, so far, right, it's been about this sort of split pressure that Incendia has been able to create, right? You have Cloud sort of just being hyper aggressive, getting bubbles and stuff, and sure, even if you remove him from the fight, there's still the rest of the team to deal with. Now, heading into the next one, Nano Boost going to be the first thing online here. Quick Esports making a bit of an adjustment over to the Winston now instead of the Malga here. This should give them some dive pressure onto this back line, but will they be able to kill the Ana in time is going to be the question.
Yeah, Captain Prash has got to be very well aware of their positioning right now, and it's not a usual choice for them, but they are very important in this fight. Overclock opened up by Cookie, big monkey in their face, but Monkey goes bye-bye, gets Harambe out of the map. Back and forth though, still, despite the fact that Cookie's finding those eliminations, Cloud felt the need to pull the blade out. Zydra cleans up Kronos. It is still messy, it's still chaotic. Something could change here. Zydra is still looking for those eliminations. There you go. That's a player who stands up to the mark when you need it.
And I mean, it's amazing for Quick Esports on that one, right? You just traded your orbital ray for three ultimates coming out from Incendia. You do still have to worry about this grab and an orbital ray on the other side now, but at least you get a chance to stabilize here, take a breath, potentially try to stand up Snowdrop on and off angle here with this overclock.
Big Graviton Surge gets the whole team low. Hybrid just takes them out. Hybrid on the journey from DPS to tank player has just proven exactly why they're on a team as tank, because they can get it when they need it. And there's not enough blinks in the world for Zydra to touch as Cloud takes them out. Gigantic Graviton Surge.
Absolutely massive, and that's the power that Grav can provide. It's, one of those fight win ultimates we always like to discuss. It's not something where you necessarily need the highest, make sure that you're hitting every single slash like a Dragon Blade or something like that. Just simply launch it as long as there's enough enemies in it and your team shoots it, then congratulations, you have yourself a team kill. But that'll be that round here. Now moving over to Village, we're going to see potentially some more switch ups try to come out here. Quick Esports pivoting over to an Orisa composition, knowing that the Incendia has been playing the Zarya makes it a little bit interesting. Yeah, I was going to say the Ramatra would make so much more sense. sense, especially with controlling this point. Just being able to shield off one side of it completely with a ram shield is going to be massive here. And then when you get into that close range fight, like you're seeing now, just activating that pummel form.
And that pump form's already out, but if the anti-deal into Willis, they are going to be forced to be a little bit more defensive with it. And as soon as they go into Omnic form, they're a little bit more in danger. Meanwhile, Hybrid is hiding in the corner for their life, trying to stay alive. Meanwhile, Captain Prash had to peek to keep Hybrid alive, gets taken out by Zydra, who has been a constant for Quick Esports so far on the Tracer, finding those eliminations. And you can kind of see why Venture might have got banned, so that Zydra could be nice and free on the Tracer.
Yeah, I mean, it makes tons of sense, especially if you're wanting to play these grouped up compositions here to come through with a ban like that. But now, Incendia is trying to look forward here. They have switched over to the Orisa to try to punish this Ramatra. I still feel like, at least on paper, the Ramatra is going to be able to get more value with switching between the two forms, of course, but Orisa definitely can take tons of space like you're seeing now on the high ground.
Yeah, and that's what Hybrid does. Just need to watch for those barriers though, because they can cut off your healing. Cloud finds Snowdrop again. Cloud on this Genji is just straight damage as Hybrid takes out Johan. Now it's only the Juno for the healing if they want to touch, but they are going to back up and release the point to Incendia.
Yep, you're just gonna have to give that flip over. When you lose the two in the fight, nothing else you can really do. But it's gonna be a reset here. You have Zydra with this pulse bomb on the line. No crazy survivability, right? There's not like a Kiriko or something like that. So if you stick something on the side of Incendia, chances are it's gonna go down unless it is hybrid. So we'll have to see. Ooh, those rails.
Snowdrop turned into icicles, piercing into Incendia, as Captain Prash will go down as well. Snowdrop just got pocketed and just won that fight off the back of it. Quick Esports, they don't even invest their orbital ray to match with Kronos, and that puts them in a very strong position, actually.
Yeah, it's all about what you have to invest and trade in these fights and being able to trade one for one when you're taking them, and
Oh,
also getting a very nice stagger on the way out. Captain Prash might have been standing in the wrong place at the wrong time for those kunai to fly. But look at this. I mean, Quick Esports, they now have complete control right now. They can choose to invest however much they want to into this next fight. If they can get away with just, say, using either a pulse bomb or an orbital and then saving this Ramatra annihilation for final fight, this could be just a quick round for them.
well, here's the blade, gets the nano as well. Cloud taking a lot of hurt though. It's a deflect that takes down Snowdrop. You're not meant to shoot them when they're deflecting, by the way. Cloud takes out Natsuki as well. Willis is just trying to stand firm on this point, just try and stall it out to at least 99%, but meanwhile, the rest of the team have went down, and again, they invested Orbital Ray and they lost the fight. Seems like Orbital Ray is a bit of a curse for these teams right now, actually.
Yeah, I mean, the orbital ray, like you said, it's instead of guaranteeing wins, it seems to be cementing losses here. But Quick Esports, they did kind of heavily invest. That's the one concern I did have for a fight like that, where if they lost, but they're still holding on to this annihilation. So if they can force the fight somewhere towards the point, like you're seeing how aggressive Willis is going in right now.
My god, but again, they are feeling the pain of it. Is able to take down Cronus in the face of Prash as well, but has to drop. Cookie, in the meanwhile, has got the overclock popped, has found two with it, and now it's put Quick into a bit of an awkward spot. They have swapped the point, however, so they do have that in their favour. It means that they're not feeling too pressured to win this fight. They could take a loss here, it's not the end of it for them. Puts Quick on the back foot though, and Pulse Bomb's ready from Zydra if they actually do want to take out Hybrid. Very close to doing so. That overtime ticker also close to ticking away and spelling doom and disaster for Incendia here. Quick Esports on the verge of it. Hybrid going down is going to be a big boon for them because there's no frontline presence. But who needs a frontline when the cookie's so sweet? With so many eliminations, this player, again, such a strong DPS line for Incendia. This team is not to be taken for granted. And the fight is still going on. And it's Sidra that cleans up. Incendia got very close to bringing it back, but Quick Esports showed that they are very keen in a clutch fight as well. And they make us equal here on the PAL.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, that's something you can't really coach. You can't really predict that clutch factor in the moment. It certainly did help that Willies was the one who managed to stay alive that entire time, right? I mean, Ramatra, in terms of tankiness of tanks right now, like when you're able to go into that pummel form, you have the block to mitigate the damage, and then when you come out of it, you have that shield ready to throw out as you need, make it so people are just too scared to approach you. And it really just kind of paid off in the end there. Just being able to exist in the fight for so damn long, being a thorn in everybody's side. Incendia really haven't made too many adjustments beyond that, right? Quick Esports, we've seen them be a little bit more adaptable so far in figuring out what they need in this specific matchup. Whereas Incendia, they're pretty much sticking with the core characters. Hybrid's been the only one to swap around.
Yeah, hybrid living up to the name, being a Battle V hybrid, and is, as you said, remaining on the Orisa for now. There is the chance for some boop kills, but it doesn't need one, as the tracking on Zydra is so clean as well. It's dirty, it's not normal. The Zydra is not human, as they just like clean up the fight, and Hybrid needs to take the plunge.
Yeah, I mean, also Zydra's just getting away with a lot right now, right? When you have this Ana Juno backline, sure, as long as the Ana's positioning well, not necessarily able to like kill them as much on Tracer, but you don't have something like a Kiri that can teleport away and throw Kunai to be threatening. You don't have a Brig that's going to threaten that Tracer out as well. So it really is giving Zydra full run over the enemy team, and finding these picks onto Cloud or Cookie or anybody really is just helping them carry. Like, look at this, Zydra's just aggressively in the team.
My god, Zydra, the confidence, the earned confidence, pouncing like a tiger. And Captain Prash, like I said, is not on a hero they're regularly on. They're not used to being the Yana in this position. They're usually the one peeling for the Yana. False bomb thrown out, doesn't find anything. The point, to be fair, has been switched over, as well as is getting bullied and packed up into their locker. Snowdrop takes Hybrid out, though, to equalise, but Prash finds the nade, and Incendia able to swap that point mid-fight is very strong for them.
Very strong look here. I mean, it was some trades that finally went their way here, and they'll get
Oof.
that late kill onto Zydra as well to buy themselves even more point percentage here. Now, going into the next one, you have this Terra Surge ready to pull everybody forward, as well as a Nano Boost here. Now, the question is, do you want to chuck that in onto your Orisa, try to look for kills that way, or do you want to hold it and wait for Cloud to build up on this Blade? Because right now, Cloud's actually the one slacking the most on Incendia. Might have to start picking up back to what they were doing on these first rounds.
And they're just kind of holding fast here, poking, prodding, but Johan finding Cloud. That's why you pick a carry, right? They're dangerous as well. A Genji goes towards them, and they can still feel the pain of that kunai getting dinked into them. Incendia still on the point though, they still have control, and they're playing coy. The Kitsune Rush coming out, joined by the Orbital Ray, is going to keep them up here. Willis took so much front-loaded damage that they popped like a balloon.
I mean, yeah, that's just a tragedy and a half here because Quick Esports invested so much into that fight when they were already down members. So now it's a bit of a reset here as Incendia is approaching their final fight territory. They only have the Blade to work with. Quick Esports at least has this Overclock combined with a Orbital Ray as well. They should at least get them on to point, but winning the fight after the fact is going to be their key factor here.
Blade starts up, Snowdrop melted down to the 1000-degree knife that Cloud was wielding. Prash gets taken out as well as finds something with the Orisa, but 99% control, and Zydra takes themselves out, and it will be Incendia taking the first map, and this is what they need as a team, right? They need a win in their standings. They need to secure their spot. But Quick Esports, they don't want to be the reason they secure their spot. So they want to turn this around. But so far, Incendia, they have the lead, and it's not entirely one-sided, right? It's very back and forth.
Mhm. Yeah, very back and forth going all three rounds. You got some extra percentage being ticked away, especially I think back to Village, right? That really could have been anybody's sub map there in terms of just the raw clutch factor that had to come out. But overall, I again, it felt like Quick Esports, they were quick to adapt, they were able to do some things, but they also kinda just hit a brick wall at points. They were focusing far too much on Cloud. When they started to shut Cloud down, though, I mean, the rest of Incendia was more than happy to start picking up that slack for the Genji player, right? You still have people like Cookie you have to worry about, and this backline as well on Ana Juno, they should be a lot more susceptible to a lot of things, but, being able to live through pretty much Armageddon for an Ana player, that shows that you're doing something right.
Yeah, and Prash is doing very well. Kronos and Prash working together to keep each other alive. But you're right, you focus Cloud, then you've got Cookie to deal with. Like Cloud and Cookie is a nasty DPS lineup to deal with for any team, and Quick Esports are definitely feeling it. But not to say that Snowdrop and Zydra aren't strong in themselves. I mean, Zydra looked so clean on the Tracer that I wouldn't be shocked to see Incendia ban Tracer at some point. Just get that pick out of the way and give themselves a bit of freedom. But Snowdrop still looking strong on the Sojourn, but Cloud a lot of the time was marking Snowdrop more than Cookie was getting marked, and I think Quick Esports definitely felt that difference compared to Incendia.
Yeah, and so now we just sort of have to wait and see. If I was looking at our match page properly, I believe we are heading on over to Havana for map number 2, which could, also decentivize potentially some of that tracer play. We could be seeing some more hit scan style compositions, and I kind of like this pick from the side of Quick Esports, right? Because you obviously have Hybrid, who was traditionally a DPS player, sort of been making that swap over tank. And where we see Hybrid been flourishing has been these more like DPS brawl heavy tanks. So for something that maybe has to be a little bit more methodical, a little bit more of the tank mindset, where you can't necessarily just go in constantly being a threat and causing damage. It could be the sort of that little weakness that Incendia has displayed before. So overall, it's a good pick coming out from the side of Quick, but we have to see if they can actually execute on it.
Yeah, and the bans are coming in as well. So we have Quick banning Sig. So Sigma's been banned by Quick. Incendia have banned Juno. Okay, so no DPS bans, just focusing on the tank and the Sig. Well, what do you think of the Sig ban from Quick, forcing them off of, I guess, kind of the classic kind of poke tank?
I was gonna say like Sigma and Havana, it goes together like bread and butter.
Hmm.
But overall, I mean, it like I said, it just should be encouraging more of that mindset difference of being like, okay, let's see what we can force Hybrid to play, see what they can do on some of these other tanks, and I would be interested to see where we end up going. My initial thought is something like a dive, but we could also see some spawn holds that end up sort of working here on Havana Point A at the very least, but only time will tell sort of situation. Currently, the defense is hovering more of that Orisa style because, again, this is just what's going to be more comfortable for them. Captain Prash pack on the Lucio at least, so maybe a little bit more comfort there, even if it means a little bit less support and care for Cookie and Cloud. But hey, listen, they'll work with it, right? When you have a Lucio that can frag out, it just means you have a third DPS on the field.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I always get frustrated in my own games when people are like, "Why are you playing Lucio? You've got low healing," and then it'll be like the Lucio's going 10-2. It's like I don't think the healing is all that important when they're actually fragging out. But very close hold. I'm getting nostalgic feelings here from this positioning, and Villas already forced out of their safety bubble, and before it pops, they're able to get back inside. And this is very brazen of them. Zydra finding Cookie as well with a classic Havana close hold. I feel like I've not seen this in a while though.
Yeah, and it's also not the traditional way you do it, right? You think of very much more brawl style. You play something like a May and things like that. But instead, people are incentivized to sort of play things that'll benefit them later on the map. A Snowdrop's coming alive.
Yeah, freezing this holds, and they are feeling the frost burn from it. Snowburn done very well. I think Captain Prash went down first. It meant they didn't have that speed, that ability to follow up on opportunities. So again, Snowdrop showing that they can step up when needed.
Yeah, and so now with that spawn hold broken, it's interesting to see that you're sticking with this Mercy pick right now for the side of Quick Esports. It's just putting everything into Snowdrop, and I mean, Listen, I don't necessarily hate it at all. You're going to be able to have a massive advantage over Cookie in the Sojourn duel when you have a Mercy pocket like this, and it really just incentivizes so much more damage on the rest of the team.
Yeah, Natsuki enjoying their time on Mercy, Snowdrop enjoying the extra bonus they can get, and yeah, you can see them being a little bit more aggressive in that duel against Cookie, and that extra confidence at the very least is doing wonders. Nate comes out onto two of them, Cloud needs to dash backwards, and so does Hybrid need to run back. They do have the Terra Surge and the Kitsune Rush, so they are going to recontest here, come in with it. The Nano onto this overclock. That is a scary amount of damage, especially if the 150 energy perk that has been chosen by Snowdrop. Natsuki going down though to Terra Surge means that suddenly that confidence that Snowdrop had, well, that might fall away. They don't have that extra damage boost, they don't have that pocket, and oh god, Johan found himself in a trick. He's chaotic right now, but Cloud cleans it up with their blade.
Yeah, finally, at the end of everything, the cleanup is there, and it will force a reset from Quick Esports. But, you're seeing the double-edged sword that is when you're playing these sort of Mercy style compositions is like, yes, you're going to be able to all in give somebody like Snowdrop pretty much the driver's seat and let them sort of dictate what happens here in the game. But if they're not able to come up with eliminations quick enough, right, the rest of Incendia can sort of collapse on that, realizing the resources aren't there to keep everybody else nice and stable, especially Yoham on this Ana. So it's going to be interesting to watch here as now we're just getting right back into it.
Yes, and now again, Snowdrop starts with the pocket, is going to take this left flank, but immediately just gets forced out. Again, Cloud being the one to mark Snowdrop works successfully, and the overclock finding Natsuki before the res can even come in, and they were in Valk form as well. They Valked for that, and yeah, I think Natsuki's going to take the lead there and kind of decide maybe Mercy for now isn't quite working anymore.
Yeah, but I mean, now we're already down to 40 seconds left. We're looking at the ult bank. It's not looking good for Quick Esports. They're pretty much going to be looking for Zydra to build up this pulse bomb and open it up with something big here. Meanwhile, Incendia has both support ultimates to work with here. If they can drag this out to a final fight situation, they'll have so much sustain in that situation.
And there's a lot of sustain from the sound barrier. Captain Prash nice and early with it. Then usually they say that the second beat's the one that is successful, but Natsuki didn't have beat, so just be aggressive with it. The stagger's kind of nasty. 5 seconds on the board, tech talking away, Snowdrop in panic station, trying to touch, gets forced off of the main lane, and that is a very strong hold on Havana. That's not an easy one to replicate. Quick Esports are gonna find themselves pretty much cornered right now. They need to really find something to work to basically full hold Havana.
Yeah, it's gonna have to require some level of bounce back. I'm looking for some kind of spawn hold like what we saw Incendia doing, able to buy some time off of the clock here, as much time as you can, really, because then after that is where it's really gonna start to get difficult. In terms of where you got held, I believe the payload actually ended up pushing almost all the way to the end. Where it's hovering now is not quite as far. I think it's a little bit of extra distance. We'll see a second that golden box of victory because the closer to the end, like you see there, it is going to be able to provide you a little bit of relief on the defense here. It gives you opportunities for second, potentially even third fights as a staggered out situation. Um, but the defense here, starting off already with the Ramadra, I think it is a better look, especially for a spawn hold. You are forced into this sort of Kiri Lucio with the lack of Juno. You need the Lucio to speed around. And then, yeah, the May is also just super, super crucial for these spawn holds. You're able to zone off one door with the wall. You're able to just slow people down as they try to exit and things like that. But Incendia, in the meanwhile, again, they haven't really adapted all too much. They're pretty much playing exactly what they were on map one, just some support substitutions.
And if you're wondering, folks, Dip isn't available right now, so that's why you're going to see the DPS line of Snowdrop and Zydra for the whole of this matchup. And Hybrid already just forcing Willis back onto the low ground. And Willis seems very concerned of Hybrid, just trying to burst down Hybrid and goes for the Kiriko so they can just TP away. But you can very much see that they're just looking to press a pain point of the Orisa. But to be fair, very survivable. Nice placement of the projected barrier means the healers can't heal them. The rest of Incendia, though, are kind of in a tough spot right now. They're all in that alleyway and they're, well, it's looking like London in there.
Yeah, and certainly is indeed. So now being forced to get a full reset here. Again, it's about buying time off this clock. You're already going to get a minute before this next fight really breaks out here. So regardless, I feel like the Spawnhold's already putting up successful numbers, but Quick Esports, if they can keep doing it, finding picks, this is the recipe to success right now.
Every second counts, right? Every little bit of time in hybrid, getting clotheslined out of the ring. They've been eliminated from the Royal Rumble and they will not go to WrestleMania. This is what we want to see. Quick Esports need to keep this control and not take any too large risks, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's the thing. They don't have to take risks. They get to just simply hover around the cart. It's completely on Incendia to sort of break themselves out of this situation here. And again, they don't have to do anything fancy, right? It's going to be now a Kitsune Rush force from Quick Esports because they just know they can.
Yeah, and that's mainly going to be used to just keep the healing up and well so they can go nice and aggressive. The rest of them, of course, feeling the benefit of the extra attack, speed, and Incendia, they're not doing too much here. They're kind of just repeating the same mistakes over and over.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Incendia, they're not making adaptations. We've seen this already across two maps now. They do not want to change off this composition for anything. So they're just going to keep rocking it until they can find a way to make it work here. But with half their time bank already burnt, I'm starting to wonder if Incendia really has a plan of action going forward.
Especially with the Blizzard ready, and now that the Javelin Spin's gone, you can imagine they would use it, but with Cloud already down, they might not even want to. Terra Search coming out is going to force the Blizzard, force the hand there. They have got some eliminations, especially onto Willis, of course, is going to be the biggest one there. Zydra, however, still looking good, needs to back up though. Finally, the hold is broken, but 1 minute, 20 seconds on the board, it's pretty good.
1 minute 20 seconds, and like in terms of the ult economy, you did just trade your Blizzard for the Terra Surge on the other side here, so it is going to be heavy ult still for both teams here now that they finally built them up. I think it's going to be crucial to see where Natsuki's sound barrier goes, whether it counters out the blade, but it doesn't
Ooh.
need to.
Oh, Cloud going down. That's a blade off the board. Cookie goes gone as well. The overclock can't be matched. Very great start here. I think putting Zydra onto the Sojourn here has been a very successful choice for Quick Esports.
I mean, more than successful. I mean, you could just look, the results speak for themselves now. Not able to set up another spawn hold, unfortunately, just because the respawners were already there. But again, you trade that overclock for just more time off the bank. Incendia, at least to their name, has a bunch of ultimates to work with, but they just have to be careful about where they're choosing to invest.
Yeah, the overclock comes out first. Cookie not finding anything. Yeah, beat perfectly timed to keep Willis alive, but still, they are in a lot of pain. The second beat comes out from the side of Incendia. Prash keeping their team alive, and now Quick, they're in a tricky spot. If they have a retouch, it's going to be very close.
Yeah, they should be able to get people out, especially with Natsuki already being respawned. That means that Lucio Speed Boost is going to be getting everybody out. You have a Kitsune Rush to work with, but the issue is it's going to be a dueling Kitsune Rush, and Cloud and Hybrid are about to have one of the best combos in the game. The Terror Surge to pull everybody together, and a Blade to slice and dice through the competition here. So Quick Esports, after an amazing defensive hold, they still have to get something done here.
Terra Surge, that's so poignantly placed into the back line, meaning they can't get through. Cloud gets Yoham, Zydra's down. Natsuki finding Cloud. Hold on a second, no more DPS. It could be turned around. Willis going
You know what?
down though. Yeah, Willis went down faster than they thought they would. Snowdrop wasn't there in time for the touch, but looking at the numbers, I think Incendia probably would have had that one anyway with that last elimination. That was almost brilliant. That was almost great by Quick Esports. I would say, like, I would call it a success because they practically did have the same hold as Incendia, just with one fight difference. But that's one of those annoying ones, right? Where it's like you were so close and just one thing could have been different and then won you the map. That's gonna be one that the VOD review look back on and see what they could have done differently. But good attempt by Quick Esports, but they're down 2-0 now.
They're down to like I'm mentally in that May shoes. I'm sitting right there. I like 95 to Blizzard. I'm running back to car. I have cryo, so I can stall guarantee get up to the Blizzard. Like I see the vision of what was gonna happen there. But yeah, now Quick Esports, they find themselves in a situation that they're not commonly used to. They're certainly on the back foot to this Incendia squad right now, and they've got to find some extra level right now, whether it's whatever their map pick is. Maybe it's banning something that's causing them problems. But realistically, there's not too much of an issue. I mean, I guess you could try to pinpoint that they're not playing into the Orisa all that well. Hybrid's getting too much value, but overall, there's not like a single issue I can single out. It's just when push comes to shove in these fights, Incendia is just edging it out every time.
They are, and you can see that by like just the small decisions that kind of unfold into larger ones. The Terra Surge placement by Hybrid was just brilliant. They were mainly entering by a single point. They had a little bit of a split, but most of their members were coming from one area. Terra Surge cuts them off completely. Backline in disarray. Blade gets value, and you're thinking if you had a bit more of a split going into that last fight, maybe you would have had a little bit more to follow up on your DPS, getting eliminations onto the opposing DPS, and then you start to think, how close were we to just having one person position just a little bit differently and winning the fight. It's a tough call right in those moments, especially because overtime wasn't right there. The timer was up. The payload had to be touched. It's panic stations. It's not as easy to talk. It's not as easy to do it as it is for casters to sit back and ha ha and talk about it in armchair
Mhm.
general. But now Quick Esports, they need to do the tough thing, which is a reverse sweep. Already Incendia have done well for their standings, but Quick Esports, they want to be the ruiner to Incendia's run, right?
Yeah, I mean they certainly want to be able to be that thorn in the side. Plus extra wins from them, it's just gonna bolster their confidence even more, right? This Incendia squad, they didn't have the best start, and then getting to add Captain Brash into the mix, it certainly has been a bit of a honeymoon phase for them, and they'd love to just keep that going straight into that playoff bracket. But I'm not gonna count Quick out just yet. This is a squad that they've got this many wins on the column for a reason. They can still certainly start putting some punches up on the board here. I did go ahead and peep. We are heading on over to Servasa. Now, granted, I feel like if Spectreon was here, he would immediately say that that was a terrible idea because that's Captain Prash's homeland. That was always the joke.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, overall, in terms of like Flashpoint, I feel like it's such a put up or shut up map. Like it's not like it truly is just like, you know what, let's just be meathead slam into each other a little bit and just kind of see what happens. And I'm not sure if that's exactly what you want to go for, but hey, listen, I'm here for it.
I mean, it'd be quite funny if Lucio hadn't been banned already. Then you could go to Servasa and ban Lucio and be like, yeah, sure, you have the Pride of India Captain Prash, you'll have the India buff in Servasa, but you won't have your character. But obviously they can't do that. Lucio has already been banned. Zarya and Kerry, those are the bans for this map, and Zarya seems like a very targeted one to Hybrid. We've seen Hybrid on the Zarya has worked for them, especially on the PAL when they were doing lots of work. So they're kind of going to be forced onto probably the Orisa then, right? And then that means that Quick Esports know what to expect. So they're kind of guiding Hybrid into a certain direction here, I think, of that ban.
Yeah, and as well, like you were talking about, you'd be like, "Oh, I wish I could ban Lucio again." Banning Curie almost effectively does that. Like, obviously, you can still select Lucio, but those Lucio Curie backlines are what you live for, right? You're expecting the Kiriko to be that main source of healing output, being able to be survivable on her own. That way, you don't need the
Hmm.
peel of a Lucio. No other support really fills that niche. I mean, Moira does to a degree, but unless you want to try to rely off a Coalescence every single fight to be your sort of game plan. That's why you're not seeing a lot of Moira compared to some of these other supports. So it'll be
Hmm.
interesting to see if we actually still see Lucio comps come out, or if we're going to have to see these backlines again try to be a little bit more flexible because speed is still going to have to be the name of the game on Servasa, and with Juno being freed from the jail, somebody's got to go fast.
Yeah, and that ban onto Kerry certainly feels focused onto Johan, who is now going to be flexing onto the Lucio, the double speed here actually by Quick Esports, so they're looking to be very maneuverable here, get Willis into positions that they should. Johan, even though they're not on Kerry, still showing that they can get in those eliminations as Cloud goes down to that lock on missile. Hybrid gets booped out of position, has to follow up from the rest of the team to stay alive, but they can't retouch this point before it switches over. Willis is already just walking into the backline, taking out Crash, and Quick Esports, with a very keen composition, have taken control of the first point.
And again, I mean, Ramontra is just so unbelievably tanky in terms of the tanks right now. People are obviously, they've been talking about Mauga, they've been talking about, dive maps and things like that, trying to see if they can make other tanks and things like that work. But you have to remember, Ramontra, as long as he's healed up, is 800 HP with, I think, 300 armor when he's in that Nemesis form. So it's maybe something that you actually have to be a little bit more cautious of, especially if you're the side of Incendia right now. But Quick Esports getting to hold this high ground. I mean, whenever you have a Soj up here, it's
Oh,
just so damn oppressive.
oh my god, yeah, Captain Prash feeling the heart. The difference in the speed of these teams, you have the one speed ring for Incendia versus the double speed of Quick Esports. They didn't even need that because, like you said, Snowdrop is just poised to cause pain. Terra Surge coming out from Hybrid, that's a bit of a questionable decision, knowing that you're already down in your backline. I think Captain Prash had just gotten sightlines. But yeah, this is a bit of a tough spot. They've already lost that first point.
Yeah, they've already lost it because that's how quickly Flashpoint can get away from you. Now it seems like everybody's setting up to fight in Palace here for our next point. And I mean, in terms of an ult bank, you could argue that it's going to be close, but already missing that Terror Surge means that Quicker Esports has that slight ult advantage right now. And really, anybody can invest whatever into this fight. I'm probably going to be looking mostly at the support ults to see which orbital ray can get the most value.
Yeah, and you can imagine both teams are very well aware that they both have that in the arsenal as they tee off here, feel each other out on this second point. They're going to push in now with the first speed, get Willis nanoed actually. That's a lot of pain, but Kronos will go down to Snowdrop. Cookie gets revenge though. The overclock's still up. Sidra finding Cloud though. It's very back and forth. Haymakers being flung. Lots of ultimates being invested into this one. But it is Zydra again that cleans up for Quick Esports.
Yeah, both teams throwing everything in the kitchen sink, but there's just a Tracer lurking, throwing those shots in when needed to finish up some of these kills. Absolutely amazing. So now Incendia, again, they have this solo speed ring, and it feels like that Quick Esports finally is finding ways to catch out on Captain Brash time and again here. And that Pulse gets a kill.
Yeah, it was yeeted into a group of them, and I think it caused enough confusion with Willis pushing on the front line that he got herded into, or at least one of them did. Yeah, and that's value from a pulse bomb. You don't usually see a pulse bomb very difficult of an ultimate to actually get lots of value from, but it actually wins that fight.
It does it in such a beautiful way here. Now you're seeing Natsuki just dutifully speeding back the speedy character because why not have some speed on speed momentum going? But in this next fight, only ultimate for either squad is going to be hybrid with this Terror Surge trying to pull people together. But we'll have to see what can be done. As the Tracer duel is happening on the wrong point.
Well, Tracers, they want to focus on the duel first. What's the point second, that's a tank person issue. Overtime, now is on, so Quick Esports in a very strong position where it's hybrid that's going to be forced to make a decision here with this Terror Surge. Probably just going to have to use it to keep themselves alive at this rate. They're just kind of sitting there, feeling the pain. Cloud, though, with the Pulse Bomb takes Snowdrop out, gets Vengeance for their own Sojourn. But it's not been enough. A little bit too passive, I would have said, from Incendia, despite the fact that Cloud is doing everything in their effort to try and turn it around. They are on map point on Servasa. Quick Esports on the route to start their journey on this reverse sweep.
Yeah, and I mean, I love the positioning as well, right? You obviously think of, Sojourn being iconic in that middle point on a market, being able to play those high grounds, but they did the similar approach there, just playing on top here. Now, as we're heading on over to, I believe this is Palace right here, you're going to see, again, a contest for this high ground here, but actually, finally, Incendia is at least fighting for it.
Oh, that's Suki getting very much targeted there by the front line. Cookie sent back to the factory to make another turret because the pulse bomb takes them out. Johan goes down though to a lot of damage in a follow-up one from Hybrid. Kronos gets marked though. Again, these fights, they're very usually chaos fights, despite the brawly nature of these compositions. It's mostly become a little bit of a chaos, lots of small individual duels happening, and Hybrid going down again. I think Quick Esports ban onto Zarya has just put Incendia in such a tough spot.
I mean, yeah, it's probably one of the toughest spots you could end up being in right now.
Oh boy.
Incendia seems to be struggling a little bit most certainly. They're now going to have the Wrecking Ball pick come out just for some disruption hope, but again, this is starting to feel like Quick Esports may have found some answers.
Yes, and Hybrid's Wrecking Ball, something I did see in kind of the first weeks of Incendia. It didn't work out too well for them. Hybrid seemed to get very easily booped around. I think had to do some work on not getting CC'd. Meanwhile, Quick Esports, again, I've just won it out. They're really, I think they just noticed the Hybrids on the Wrecking Ball and they could just walk into the rest of the team.
Yeah, and now Cloud is actually staggered out. So with how quickly these points tick up, you're not actually going to be able to guarantee get your Tracer back in the fight here, which is going to be bad. And Snowdrop is lurking this overclock. It should be deadly.
Well, as it typically is, here it comes. Snowdrop takes out Prash. Natsuki does find something in the meantime. The overclock, I don't think they quite realized where the rest of the team were. Snowdrop gets caught out again. Hybrid actually stepping up to the mark, working well with Cloud. Cloud and Hybrid on the Wrecking Ball Tracer. Maybe this will be enough to turn this map around.
Yeah, I mean, granted, you have a long way to go before you're anywhere near that, but it is a start to say the least for Incendia here. Now, Quick Esports, they can come into this next one still with this Annihilation. Not a lot of people to focus down on. It's probably going to be Cookie who's going to end up taking the brunt of this Ramager's damage here, as everybody else has some pretty solid ways to escape. But again, it's going to be about setting up your Sojourn, getting Snowdrop set up on this high ground. That way they can just not be dislodged. But Cookie finds one.
Yeah, Cookie with the molten bolt to the body of the DJ. Natsuki will go down. Willis does find Captain Prash in the meantime. Captain Prash the most vulnerable on their position, but suddenly they've made enough changes here that Incendia are dealing lots of pain to the specific pain points of Quick Esports comp, and it's going to force Natsuki onto Brig, apparently.
Yeah, you need something a little bit more survivable, especially against that Tracer. If you think Cloud is getting too much value, and even the Wrecking Ball, just that Whip Shot can boop a lot more. It's going to be the Tracer just tapping the touch here, but it's going to be a full 5v5.
Batman never had minds like Wrecking Ball, but Hybrid swings from the rafters nonetheless. Does create a little bit of disruption, but there's not enough follow up. Huge sleep onto Tracer in the backline from Captain Prash. If there could be follow up, Zydra would be in a lot of pain. This probably isn't the follow-up you think it is, Kronos. That was very brave to decide to 1v1 a Tracer. Snowdrop is going to take Cloud out, and suddenly the lead that they had, I think a little bit too passive there in that fight, a little bit too estranged from each other, and Quick Esports, they see the opportunity, they take it, and they have begun to equalize this series. Exactly what they needed, right? These are two
Mhm.
top teams, and Quick Esports showing that they're not going to go down without a fight.
Yeah, and it's just beautiful adjustments. It felt like they were really in control. There was a little bit of a slip at the end that Torbjorn was getting a little too much value, but overall the response was actually finally there from the side of Quick Esports. So they were able to sort of figure things out and do as they needed to. But now it's just going to be trying to sort of figure this next map out and how it's going to play out, right? Both these teams are going to have to be incredibly careful and worry about what's going on. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I'm trying to think through what we've played. We should be heading on to Push
Push.
for our fourth map. Um, so we're going to have, again, it's very similar to Flashpoint in terms of that back and forth approach. Not going to have the same bans though, because Zarya and Kiriko will be back in play guaranteed. But realistically, this could be a great situation right now for Quick Esports. You come through, you ban the Orisa, and just really start making Hybrid super uncomfortable.
Yeah, and Esperanza being the map that we're going to go to, as Incendia now in a position where they're like, all right, you had your fun, you beat us on Servasa despite our India buff. Let's clean it up. But Quick Esports are saying no, we're going to take this to a fifth map. We're going to keep going. The bans have been secured, just waiting for them to come through. But obviously Zarya playable, right? The Kiriko again, playable Kiriko is going to work really well for Quick Esports on a map like Esperanza. So now all those previous bans are going to start to stack up because they're protected, and really play into the benefits of both teams.
Exactly. And now that we know we are heading on over to Esperanza, um, I'm expecting to see the that Kiri Lucio backline for both teams, which that is has felt like it looks a lot better for the side of Incendia. Don't get me wrong, Quick Esports are no slouches on it, but they've clearly been preferring more of the Juno style, as well as it makes the other team more uncomfortable, right? So maybe they could
Mhm.
find a way to force it here. Maybe some variant of the auto break as well. We've seen on the high grounds of Esperanza can certainly work out. Um, but overall, again, it's going to be about Quick Esports continuing to find these adaptations, not just in terms of their heroes, but just in terms of how they have to play the game, figuring out where the pressure needs to be applied from fight to fight, because it is changing, right? Incendia, they're it's not some similar fight plan every single time where they're pocketing the same DPS. It truly is kind of dependent from fight to fight. They actually realize, hey, we need to set up different things because they're starting to predict us. They know what we want to do. So if we just keep them off balance, and that's how we're going to go.
Yeah, we've seen this throughout the matchup where Incendia seem to be the team that are more likely to adapt in hero choices and in gameplay. Quick Esports, they certainly seem to be more of the team that has a plan and they know that that plan will work. They just have to execute it correctly. Versus Incendia, who are a little bit more loose with it. We have seen Incendia kind of really going for the Captain Prash and Juno backline. I think it's worked out fairly well considering that Captain Prash typically a main support player known for Brig and Lucio, but it has been working out some good sleeps as well, and of course against the Ramatra, that double nade perk, very strong against those close knit kind of brawly teams. So that double bounce nade going to be working really well, and maybe that's a specific choice Incendia are making to target the choice that Quick Esports are making of their compositions.
Yeah, the specific choices and much more is kind of what we just need to figure out with these teams right now. If I'm not mistaken, the bans have come through as well here.
Hmm.
And it seems like it is an Orisa ban, which again, that's to be more than expected. And the Tracer ban, I mean, I understand not wanting to deal with Zydra, but I feel like Cloud was certainly matching on that Tracer duel, especially when they actually finally went over to it. So maybe just hoping for more dive composition style, but overall,
Hmm.
that Orisa ban's gonna hurt.
It could be that they would rather have Cloud on the Genji or Pharah than on the Tracer. So if you get rid of the Tracer, then you don't have to have them forced to duel. So maybe that's the kind of route that they're taking here, which again is going to play into Cloud's strong suit. So maybe that's the plan there. And banning Orisa, yeah, that's one of Hybrid's tanks, right? You're probably, if it's Brawl, you're now imagining you're going to see the Zarya, potentially Wrecking Ball as well. Again, we have seen Hybrid do quite well, and Incendia as a whole with Wrecking Ball compositions. So it just depends what they decide to go for. But with it still being match point, Quick Esports, they still can't really allow themselves to make too many mistakes. They're the team that needs to be playing pitch perfect right now. And so far, the Servasa turnaround has put them in some good momentum for sure.
Yeah, and that momentum should be carrying them forward here. It looked absolutely amazing on Servasa, like you said. As And again, they should be able to sort of match things a little bit more comfortable here. The spawn room compositions, I'm not going to fully take at face value, purely because if you're playing May with this composition for the side of Quick Esports, I'm going to call you silly. That's going to be the choice word I use here. Um, the shout out to the Twitch Prime plug, you love to see it. But currently, it is going to be Quick Esports who actually are walking out with the May, so they're going to play more of this style with the Brawl Ramatra. And
Mm.
then Quick Esports on the other side of things is they've got the Zarya back, and it's going to be the Ana Juno once again for them, as we are just
Yeah,
circling the brain.
yeah, we'll get there. Oh no, exposed. Oh
Oh no.
no. Oh, there we go. Okay, yeah, so we're back into it. Yeah, so yeah, this very brawly composition. We've seen these walls work very well at splitting up Hybrid away from their team, especially on Havana, on the close hold. Those walls were a very big pain point for Hybrid, and now that they're not Orisa, if they don't have good bubble management and then get walled off, it's going to be very tough for them. But Cloud gets evaporated. Willis blows them out of the fight, and now without that follow-up to the damage, Quick Esports, they're going to have to play a little bit more coy with it. They can't go exactly too aggressive, and you see Hybrid going to go down. Sorry, Incendia's on the right. So Quick Esports with the first fight win exactly what they needed to do.
Yep, exactly what was needed here. And again, it's just sort of, rinse and repeat. Watch Zarya use bubbles, wall her off, nuke her, rinse and repeat. Like, there's not really anything Zarya can do about it except, find a way to try to kill it you back or get her team on the other side of the wall with her. But it is just ultimately going to be first. The forward spawn's already unlocked for the side of Quick Esports. I mean, this turnaround has been massive so far, and it's just going to keep on going.
Yeah, and a forward spawn already puts them in a great spot. Not to say that it's over already for Incendia, but they've definitely been put on the back foot by a very strong degree. And Sydra's just waiting here, got the full charge, not going to be unleashing that fairly certain they can get an elimination with it, and that's the sort of patience you want to see. And Cloud gets forced into a really tough spot. They pretty much Cloud went in, got bubbles, and the rest of the team couldn't get through that choke, and suddenly like they've lost the fight and need to back up.
Yeah, and so now having to back up, like you said here, look at this. I mean, well, it's just still doing what they please here. And it's just been this constant snowball. Quick Esports, they have the momentum going for them, and they're not going to let it go unless Incendia finds a ways to force it to be let go. Sure, they're coming up on some decent ultimates like a nano overclock here, but overall, I mean, Quick Esports has more than enough to respond with. Almost all 5 check marks ready to go for them.
Yeah, and Willis has been so good on that front line and just controlling the space and giving it to Zydra, who of course has the overclock right now, pumping off damage into Incendia, but the nano and the overclock of Incendia are going to keep them alive in the meantime. Cookie finds Zydra with their own overclock because it's definitely time for Incendia to try and fight back, because this looks one-sided. This looks like what happens to me in my comp games. Quick Esports have awoken something within themselves. This is the Quick Esports that we know, that we love, that we want to see. And they are just walking Incendia out of Esperanza. This is so strong, and ever since they've swapped Zydra onto the Sojourn, it's looked that strong.
Yeah, it's just look. I mean, strong is not even the word I use. It just looked dominant right now. I mean, Quick Esports, they seem to have just solved the puzzle here, and Incendia it simply has no extra pages in the book to sort of flip to. So now looking forward here into this next fight, it's going to be back at the center for the first time since the start of the map here. But again, Zydra's found one.
Yeah, this is just it, right? The space is enough for Zydra to go on a little bit of an off angle, and that's all they need, right? A glowing blue Zydra should be the boogeyman for Incendia. You need to run. Cloud, though, wants to win the fight. Pulls out the blade, finds 2. Hello? Doesn't have to dash to find Zydra, though. So it is a bit more tough right now, a bit of a chaos, but Willis goes down to Cookie, and Cloud has saved it for their team. And that's good for Incendia. It's also good for the pockets of Quick Esports TV, who I saw put $10 on Quick Esports losing 3-0, which I find to be a strange proposition.
I mean, either you win $10 or your team wins. That if anything, that's smart gambling. Either way, you win.
Tactics.
If you really think about it. But yeah, no, I mean, now we actually have Incendia able to push the payload, or the bot rather, for the first time here. But they're having to push when they know this annihilation is looming on the other side here, so they can't get too comfortable.
They have to practically finish the map. They have 5 minutes to do so. Snowdrop finding Cloud means Incendia is going to be a bit tougher in this fight. This is just a great composition. Quick Esports are just working with this. They're in their element right now. They're in their flow state, and obviously the orbital ray came up. Hybrid's going to go down, and the fact that Hybrid's been forced onto Winston is going to create a little bit more of an issue for the backline of Quick Esports. But they're so maneuverable that you're really not going to be able to clamp them down.
Yeah, and so now it, like you said, it's just going to be incredibly difficult. Now the overclock also being dropped from Cookie here, trying to turn the tides to not allow even another meter to slip away.
Yes, and whoa, sniper monkey. Okay, hybrid fight snowdrop. Our tank has mechanics. That's what you get when there used to be a DPS. Prash is going to go down though to Natsuki, and Sidra fighting Cloud means that even with that initial pick from hybrid, this point will continue to push. And Quick Esports are very close to a full cap on Esperanza.
Yeah, and so now with that full cap looming here, I mean, if you're Incendia, right, like what do you do? There doesn't seem to really be an answer. You're now just sort of making hero swaps. You're going to nano the Pharah onto the bot here, but with only 1 meter to go, I mean, what are you really realistically supposed to do?
Yeah, very smart decisions from Quick Esports as well to just back up immediately as soon as they saw Cloud go in because they knew what was going to happen. Captain Prash did find Natsuki, but in the meantime, Zydra is just having fun. Zydra is at the shooting range, and right now they're getting 3 stars. Primal Rage and an Orbital Ray, not the combo you see often, but something that Hybrid's going to have to really showcase their primal skills here as the tank to try and turn it around because the enemies are at the gate. You cannot let them in. Quick Esports are looking so strong and they're coming up to their Orbital Ray, and with Kronos going down, that healing is just going to be on Captain Prash, who gets walled off, can't see the rest of the team. Perfect placement from Snowdrop. Quick Esports have equalized the series. Okay, alright, I see you. We're not going to back down when we go 2-0 down. We're not going to give up. We're not going to let bad mental get the best of us. This is Quick Esports. They've equalized, but now there's just one step more. One step away from the reverse sweep, and right now, Quick Esports, they're very much looking like they will take that step.
Yes, indeed. So now heading to control again, and I'm thinking back to Nepal, and it was close, back and forth. So we should be in for a barn burner to end it out here. But realistically, right, when you think back to those earlier maps that Incendia was winning, yes, obviously they were winning them, but there was a little bit of that back and forth. It was close in a lot of these engagements, but as soon as Quick Esports maybe realized what they were up against and maybe finally found the adaptations, it has been dominant from them since Saravasa. I mean, just being able to take over the map, putting, like you said, Zydra on the Sojourn has been such a key, and just being able to adapt around and finally, poking down the weaknesses of Incendia. It really is showing why Quick Esports is this great team. They still have to
Yeah.
finish the job, though. There is still one more map, and I'm not going to count Incendia out just yet, but it's something to just absolutely marvel at.
It is, of course, Incendia, a good team, but a team that has constantly found themselves fighting to stay in the top 8. Quick Esports, they're at the top of the standings. They're joint, I think, second with well, yeah, all three D'Ampero, TA, Quick Esports. They're kind of joint right now. Those 4 top
Mhm.
teams are very strong. 0907 are at the top, but looking at the standing, I think they have more matches played, and that kind of helps them get to that spot. But Quick Esports, they're one of those teams where you think, yeah, if they get to the top 2 in these playoffs, they're a team I could see in OWCS. They're a team that you could definitely say, yeah, I could see them winning the promotion and getting to OWCS and being a bit of a dark horse, right? A wild card pick, something we haven't seen a whole team do in Overwatch before because we've never had this whole team promotion system. We've seen players come up that we've been excited about and they've done really well. We've never had whole teams because it's not been a system before. Quick
Mhm.
Esports, they're looking to be one of the first teams to make history in Overwatch Esports and be that wild card that can get to OWCS and shock the world.
Yeah, and I mean, they certainly can do it as they're shocking all of us here, because again, they can flip on a dime. Give them the time to figure things out, and they certainly will do just that throughout these series. Again, they are an incredibly good team here. A win here should put them at the number one with that 9-1 record, but they still have to get the win here against this Incendia squad. There's so many good teams in this bracket that if you're looking at it, like just being able to say that you're 8-1 right now is already such an accomplishment to realize how good you have to be at the top of the top with some of these other teams like you were listing off, Geo. So I would love to see that continue here for Quick Esports as again their adaptations have been on point, but Incendia, if I'm not mistaken, they've got to have one last trick up the sleeve.
Yeah, Incendia, they need to shake it off, right? They need to now prove that they've got the mental, that they've got the ability to beat Quick Esports in a situation where you've had them a match point for 2 maps in a row now, and you've failed to seal the deal, and quite significantly so. Servasa, one-sided. Uh, Esperanza,
Mhm.
one-sided. It's been one-sided for 2 maps now, and Incendia needed to turn it around. But Quick Esports, they've got such a strong amount of momentum going in for themselves. And of course, this next map cannot be drawn. This next map will decide who is the better team this night. We call it Fight Night Thursday because these teams are going tooth and nail, as we'll be going to Samoa for the final map to decide who is the better team.
Fight Night Thursday. I don't think I've heard anybody call it that. I think you are unfortunately completely alone on that one, but it should be a fight. It absolutely should be a fight between these two teams. I'm thinking back to Nepal. We should be on top of each other, just completely close, especially with, again, I'm expecting a lot more of these brawl styles to come out. This is where Incendia and Quick have both sort of been able to look good with their own different variants, their own different styles. But we just sort of have to play it by ear. Currently, Hybrid hovering back on that Zarya pick could. If it walks out of spawn this way for both teams, could accidentally be amazing here against Willis on that Diva pick, but it's just going to have to sort of be a wait and see situation here as the doors are about to open.
I would just want to very quickly step in and say Zydra only had one death last map. One death. And they need to keep this up. Match point both ways, 2-2. Can Quick Esports prove themselves one of the better teams in the Masters division and secure this reverse sweep, or will Incendia put a doorstep in their way as they tee off here on the beaches of Samoa in that warm sun? But will it be a holiday for one of these teams as they are needing to be careful because Captain Prash feeling a lot of hurt? Zydra has the Tracer, can't ban it, but has to back up. They're getting chased away. The point goes the way of Incendia in the meantime, as Zydra are basically alone trying to find those eliminations and is constantly getting forced out. But Cookie crumbles to Willis in the mech. The Diva finds themselves behind the DPS line, and that's going to mean that there's a little bit of an advantage here. The Zydra can go a little bit more hard. Captain Prash surviving through so much pain. They've got a hazmat suit on, walking through Chernobyl, but no one can stop them. Incendia still have the percentage of the point, despite being initially down a member. Kronos going down as well. Captain Prash is a cockroach on this point. Finally gets squished by Zydra, and Incendia will start to fall apart. But Natsuki goes down. Hybrid's on 1 HP in a dream right now as the point switches finally. But that was good for Incendia, I'd say.
I mean, yeah, they just pretty much got to stall despite losing members early on, so just that was tons of free percentage where Quick Esports hadn't fully capitalized. Zydra, of course, is going to make sure the capitalization happens as Cookie is sent back to spawn once again, potentially now being the new target here. But Quick Esports, I mean, they're showing a extra level of aggression right now, and that it's kind of how you have to play into the Zarya, like you're seeing.
Oh yeah, Zarya's gonna go down, and just for reference, folks, just to cover again, the bans are Wrecking Ball and Brigitte. So you won't see any Wrecking Ball come out from the side of Incendia, who have sometimes pulled it out, but it does mean, of course, Orisa is playable, so is Ramatra.
Yeah, I mean, those options are there, but it seems like they want to stick with this for the time being. It's going to be some ultimates actually being dumped. It's a heavy ult fight coming up.
Okay, Cloud finds the deflect, but they have lost two already. The backline gone for Incendia, and it is going up in flames. Willis able to remake as well, and they still hold control. And they're keeping it close to the spawn of Incendia as well.
Yeah, keeping it incredibly close here, but Quick Esports also did just pretty much empty the bank. They're only going to have this sound barrier to come online eventually once Natsuki gets it here, but versus everything that can be thrown out, yeah, look at this. Natsuki already had to invest.
Yes, and there's the grab though, right onto the back line, gets microwaved. Heavy investment from Incendia. They get the win off of it, but have they used too much?
Yeah, I mean that's going to be certainly the question here. Both sides now hurting in the ult economy. It's just going to be a DPS ult for a DPS ult for the time being. But Yoham, as long as this fight continues to go, is going to be able to build up to another orbital ray here, which will be massive. Of course, Zydra lurking. This pulse bomb also can completely change the fight as long as it goes to the right person.
And you see the pulse bomb waiting. Blade comes out, is going to dash down Snowdrop, melts away their hopes of turning this fight around. Incendia in a very good spot, 80% right now, just 20% away. Brash goes down, so there's not a lot of healing anymore for Incendia. They're just really focusing on Kronos, keeping the rest of the team alive. Of course, what's Willis going to do against the Zarya and the rock, paper, scissors of Overwatch? Zarya beats out the Diva. They can just beam through that D Matrix, and you see Zydra trying to turn it around for Quick Esports, but Hybrid finding Natsuki. This is very much Incendia's point. Unless Yoham can get back to the point and perhaps get an orbital ray, Doomfist going to go down. It was a bit of a Hail Mary pick. Yoham goes down before Orb comes out, and Incendia will start out on Samoa, saying to Quick Esports, listen, we don't want you to get this reverse sweep. We gave you two maps, but that's all that we're giving you. Quick Esports find themselves in a position where they now in a isolated scenario, need to reverse sweep Samoa.
Yeah, I mean, but they've shown that they're more than capable of it. Again, though, I liked how they were playing despite the compositional mismatch, even with the Diva, just how aggressive they were against Incendia for most of that round. It was working, right? But they ultimately, again, they finally just kind of let their foot off the gas for the moment, and that's all Incendia needed to find their opening and start going to work here. Now, as we're heading on over to Volcano, there's going to be more Brawl favored. That's why I see Quick Esports on this Brawl style with the Ramatra May, something they've been very good at, and Zydra back on to that Sojourn pick. But Incendia, the more things change, the more things stay the same. They just want to rock out with this composition.
And it's all on the line for Quick Esports, who can make very few mistakes here. Although this particular point will work out really well. They've been using these walls to their strength for this whole series, and now there's plenty of opportunity on these small connectors on Volcano. The ice block already used from Snowdrop is going to create an opportunity if Cloud wants to go anywhere near the May there, and they're just kind of teeing off right now. Quick Esports have more of a control of the point, with the wall going up, looking to try and secure the early percentages there. Bubble going on to Cloud, but Natsuki finds two. Hello, that's the backline we want to see. The DPS Lucio in full effect. Incendia, they fall apart, and it's Quick Esports now that starts the point with some percentage.
Yeah, and again, they look incredibly good on this Brawl composition. The May walls come through, they're able to zone people off. You see Hybrid immediately giving up the Zarya, knowing that they are just going to get caught out time. And again, here the Orisa has more of that stability. But again, Quick Esports, if they can just continue to find walls and aggression here, it'll be a very good round for them.
Yeah, and you can see being able to force out the Sojourn as well with Ramatra is working very well, because it means that you're going to have Cookie on the back foot more than Zydra. Zydra is coming up to their overclock as well. The Orbital Ray coming out though, is matched, but in a bit of a tough spot are Incendia. They're able to find Natsuki, actually, who was close to the sound barrier. So that's a very strong pick. Cookie finding Yoham, also Incendia getting the picks that they need. Willis hiding in the corner, trying to get as much percentage as they can before they go down. But it will swap over finally to Incendia, who've held on to some good ultimates there.
Yeah, I mean both sides really holding on, right? Not too heavy of an invest. Both these teams, they seem to be kind of exchanging these fights where one team will throw in maybe one ultimate, it'll be responded with one ultimate, and then everybody wants to just dump into a single fight here. So you're gonna probably see PRM, especially looking towards the support ults like the nano boost and stuff to try to come up big.
Yeah, and that's a good start for Cookie, taking out Natsuki. And yeah, I mean, that'll happen when you use both both DPS ults and a nano. You will win the fight, that is for sure. But again, I think they overinvested, I would say, because now Cookie Esports have an
Mhm.
advantage coming back into it.
Exactly. They're coming in with Annihilation, Blizzard, Sound Barrier. I mean, you might as well come in with a brand new car with all this extra stuff you got going on. I mean, Quick Esports, yeah, as long as Quick Esports doesn't overinvest here, this will be an amazing fight for them. But Hybrid is lurking with a Terra Surge, which is immune to pretty much everything that we just listed.
Yeah, big Terror Surge actually into the back line. Going to force a sound barrier early here from Natsuki. However, the follow-up hasn't quite been there yet. Zydra going down is huge, and Natsuki as well. They're falling apart. Even though they've used sound barrier and Blizzard, this is a brilliant fight win for Incendia. And it's actually put Quick Esports into a very tough position.
I mean, yeah, this is more than being on the back foot, right? Sound barrier and Blizzard investment just to not come up with it here. Now you're going to be pretty much putting everything into this annihilation from Willis, but all it takes is hybrid is a well placed spear to knock that Ramantra away from where they want to be. You know, you're certainly concerned about it here if you are Quick Esports. This time is starting to dwindle.
Time is dwindling. The match is dwindling before you. Big sleep from Prash onto Willis creates a lot of time where they can get a nade. Very aggressive from Prash there, but the captain decides that they need to go for it, but they will get taken out by Zydra nonetheless, who on this Tracer has looked phenomenal this series. And finally, Quick Esports, by tooth and nail, they win this fight. It's 99% control for Incendia, but Quick Esports have control of the point finally.
Uh, I'm very scared, Gio. I'm gonna be real. Cloud has this thing called a blade, and Captain Prash has this thing called a nano. Put them together, and you're looking at certain doom here. Quick Esports to live this nano blade. It's going to take just raw mechanical skill, no ultimates online, just simply maybe a boop, a displacement, or some focus fire to take the Genji out of the fight.
There it is, and Natsuki finds the pain of it. Going to go down, a huge sleep as well. Cloud, a constant in this team, a consistent fight winner, has done it again. 99%, and the overtime ticker ticks away, and so do the hopes of Quick Esports of this reverse sweep. A huge sweep from Prash. That's massive. Means that they can follow up with the orbital ray into the rest of the team, and they have done it. They've halted the progress of Quick Esports, and Incendia have upset them. They have won 3-2. But boy, did they have to fight for it. That was not one sided, that was very close. But Samoa, full control there by Incendia. Incendia really, I think they must have had some sort of team talk before that final map and said, listen, let's lock in. We cannot lose this map. We cannot let ourselves be reverse sweep. And that's what they've done. Incendia get themselves a win. An outstanding match from all the players here. And I'm just happy I got to witness it. But yeah, Incendia, that's going to look very nice in their standings. That's going to help keep them in that top 8 so they can play in the playoffs.
Yeah, looks absolutely amazing for them. And again, you know, it's one of those teams where their honeymoon phase continues. You maybe saw, you know, those moments where Quickies were starting to run away with it. It was just the, you know, nerves, whatever you want to attribute it to, just a lot of excitement maybe coming out from, oh, look, we're about to get a win. And just, you know, those moments, they can slip away from you. But like you said, as long as you have that lock in moment, you have those extra maps you can toss away. You certainly don't want every series to be this close because longer series just means more stress on you. But at the end of the day, you can't argue with the result if you are the side of Incendia and Quick Esports.
Mhm.
You know, it's the second loss you've hit so far. You know, not the end of the world by any means here, but there's going to certainly be a good one to VOD review and check back and see what exactly went wrong and learn from it.
Yeah, and I know I'm the vice chair of the Captain Prash Glazing Club, but to see Prash play Anna and do so well, hitting lots of good sleeps, getting good positions for those nades, of course, that double bounce nade perk working very well against that Ramatra composition, as we very well saw on Samoa. And yeah, maybe it's time to think, is this not a honeymoon phase? Perhaps this is just what the team is now. Perhaps they are just going strength to strength forward into eventually the playoffs, where maybe they are going to be a team that's a wild card. Maybe they'll get to the top two. Perhaps they'll win. Perhaps they'll get into OWCS. These teams, they have high peaks. It's just about rounding it out right, tying it all together in a nice consistent bow. Quick Esports, they lose. They won $10 though, so congrats to Quick Esports for winning. Actually, no, they said 3-0 win, didn't they? So technically, they didn't. So they don't even win $10. That's it. They're out on money and they're out on the match. So that's rough. But I don't think we're going to get an interview from anyone here. So I'll just be wrapping it up. We'll let all you folks go to your comp games or wherever it is you have planned. I wonder if the standings are already updated. Actually, if I just give this a quick refresh here. See if it's going to update the standings already. I don't know how fast Face will be with this. Let's have a look. Okay, so what has changed so far is Incendia, of course, have another match win. So they've kind of secured themselves in that 5 to 6 spot. Quick Esports taking that loss has knocked them down. TA are now second in the standings, and looking at the points here, yeah, it's only because 0907 have played another match, I think, that they are in the top standing. So TA, a team who I'm pretty sure don't have an org yet, are at the top of the standings then, technically, if you like even it out in terms of matches played. So that's a strong one. That's a team put together there. I know Tekuno's on that one as well. So the Masters, this is looking like a pretty good spread of teams here going into this playoffs. I'm actually quite excited to see how this is going to go. It seems very malleable between this kind of top eight of teams. So I'm very excited to see who's able to clutch it at the end of the day in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I can agree more. Like looking at this, there's not a single team here I'm going to completely count out. Obviously, you have some people you might try to favor more, but I don't even think there's necessarily a clear favorite, even with records being what they are, right? There truly is tons of opportunity for these teams to punch up. And overall, again, it just makes it all the more exciting when you have these competitive brackets, everybody going against each other, trying to do what they can here. And we're just it just means that we're in for a wild ride whenever this bracket hits, and so it's just gonna be more and
Yes.
more entertaining.
Yeah, more and more entertaining. But thank you for watching, folks. Thank you to production of Joe Too Cool and Jay for keeping the cogs turning, even if it was a bit of a last minute affair to get this together. Thank you, Megan Lass, again as a last minute stepping in and helping me here cover this great game. My name has been Gio, and don't forget to laugh loud and love yourself, folks. Good night. Sweet.